Muhammad wa ala Muhammad salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Mu'min and Mu'minat, please recite a Surah Fatiha for Kul Mu'min. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Malik yawmiddin. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد اللهم صل على اللهم صل على اللهم صل على Ya Allah, we thank you for giving us this opportunity to observe the 10 days of Muharram once again, to show our love for those who you love, to show our dedication for those who you told us to turn to for guidance. Ya Allah, please purify our intentions for today and each one of these nights and for everything we do in life. But start with our intention for attending, our intention for helping out with, for volunteering with, our intention for being part of these majalis. Please purify our intention so there's no arrogance in our intention. There's no misdirection in our intention. There's no misguidance in our intention. Please allow this Azadari to be with pure intention so we get the maximum benefit from it. Ya Allah, there's no guarantee last year that we would be here this year to be able to observe the 10 days of Muharram. Here we are again. Through your benefit, through your generosity, through your rahmah, through your graciousness, and you gave us the opportunity. So please give us the strength and the iman and the nek tawfiq to rise to the challenge of making this opportunity the greatest the greatest gift that's been given to us. Because what greater gift has been given to us than the gift of the Al Bayt and the opportunity to shed tears for a moment. This is a big part of our life and who we are. This is the most important part of who we are. And we want to pour out our soul in these 10 days of Muharram. We want to inspire ourselves and others in these days, and we want to gain the maximum benefit, Ya Allah, so we can get favors in this world and in the hereafter. Mu'min Mu'minat, Bar Muhammad wa ala Muhammad sallallahu Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Tonight is the first night of Muharram. In the tradition of al-Asr, we've been doing this for over 20 years. And in the tradition of al-Asr, the first majalis, the first night, majalis is dedicated to al-Marhum. So this majalis is dedicated to all of our marhum. The marhum of the Qasim Ali family, the marhum of the Raza family, the marhum of the Banda Ali family, marhum Tahir Mumin, who started the al-Asr and made me aware of the tradition of the first night of Muharram being dedicated to our marhum. So even though we just did this, let's recite another Surah Fatiha for Kul Mu'min. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Malik yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdina as-sirata al-mustaqim. Sirata alladhina an'amta alayhim ghayril maghdubi alayhim wa lad-dallin. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Qul huwa Allahu ahad. Allahu samad. Lam yalid wa lam yulad wa lam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Qul huwa Allahu ahad. Allahu samad. Lam yalid wa lam yulad wa lam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد اللهم صل على محمد اللهم صل على محمد اللهم صل على محمد. On today's program, we're going to start with Hadith Qissa. You listen to Hadith Qissa on these 10 days. Think about who is present in the room. Think about the fact that Prophet Muhammad, Hazrat Ali, Bibi Fatima, Imam Hussain, and Imam Hussain were all present under the cloak. There were other people in the house, but only those members and Hazrat Jibreel were welcome to join the cloak. And Allah announced to the entire heavens, to all the angels, that these are my beloved. Right? These are the direct quote from Bibi Fatima Tadara to Jabir Abdullahi Ansari, who was a scribe, a journalist at the time, a very reliable source of information of our what it is to be a Shia and of the history of Islam and the history of the important events of this world. He wrote this down, and it was narrated from Bibi Fatima Tadara. So as we listen to the words of Bibi Fatima Tadara on these nights of Muharram, it is Bibi Fatima Tadara who said that even a tear the size of a mosquito wing will be enough to get you the golden ticket to go into heaven, right? So take the opportunity to change your life and change your death and change your eternal life in the hereafter on these nights. This is a gift from Allah. The day of Ashura was a substantial day. It was the best day that was given to the world because you think about the fact that there was kids were killed. The Imam was killed. The women were tortured, but the benefits that they received and the benefits that we received by acknowledging the tragedy and the strength of them is a gift to the world. And now let's recite Allah Salat for Brother Abi Qasim. He's going to recite, introduce from over here. He's going to recite Hadith Kisa. Muhammad wa ala Muhammad sallallahu Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wa please recite a Surah Fatiha. Again, let's do as much Fatiha as we can. When we're dead, inshallah, those who survive us will recite Fatiha for us as often as, more often than we do for our Muslim, right? So let's get in the habit of doing that during these 10 days. Please recite a Surah Fatiha. Again, for the Marhuma of the Qasim Ali family, for the Marhuma of the Banda Ali family, for the Marhuma of the Raza, for all of the Muslims. Allahumma salli ala Allahumma salli ala اللهم صل على محمد وعلى ال محمد الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين اياك نعبد واياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين انعمت عليهم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله احد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله احد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد اللهم صل على اللهم صل على
حديث كسر بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم عن جابر بن عبد الله الأنصاري عن فاطمة الزهراء عليه السلام بنت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وعلى وسلم قالت سمت فاطمة أنها قالت دخل علي أبي رسول الله في بعض الأيام فقال السلام عليك يا فاطمة وقلت عليك السلام قال إني أجد في بداني زوفا فقلت له أوعظك بالله يا أبتاه من زوف فقال يا فاطمة ائتني بالكساء اليماني فغطيني به أتيته به وصرت أنظر إليه وإذا وجهه يتلألأ كأنه البدر في ليلة تمامه وكمل فاطمة كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسن قد أقبل وقال السلام عليك يا أمه فقلت وعليك السلام يا قرتي عيني وسمرات فعود فقال يا أمه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جدي رسول الله فقلت نعم إن جدك تتل كسائي فأقبل الحسن نوى الكسائي وقال السلام عليك يا جداه يا رسول الله أتأذن لي أن أدخل معك تحت الكساء فقال وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا صاحب هبة حوزي قد أذنت لك فدخل معه تحت الكساء سلام اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسين قد أقبل وقال السلام عليك يا أماه فقلت وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي فقال لي يا أمه إني أسهم عندك رائحة طيبة أنها رأيت جدي رسول الله فقلت نعم إن جدك وأخاك الكساء فدنا الحسين نوى الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا جداه السلام عليك يا من اختاره الله أتأذن لي أن أدخل مع قوم تحت الكساء فقال وعليك السلام يا ولدي يا وشفي أمتي قد أذنت لك فدخل معهما تحت الكساء فأقبل عند ذلك أبو الحسن علي بن أبي طالب وقال السلام عليك يا بنت رسول الله فقلت وعليك السلام يا أبا الحسن ويا أمير المؤمنين فقال يا فاطمة إني أسهم عندك رأيتها طيبة كأنها رأيتها أخي وابن أمي رسول الله فقلت نعم ها هو مع ولديك تحت الكساء فأقبل إلي نوى الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله أتزن لي أن كنا أكون معكم تحت الكساء فقال وعليك السلام يا أخي ويا وسي خليفتي وصاحب اللواء قد أذنت لك فدكل علي تحت الكساء اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد ثم أتيت نوى الكساء وقلت السلام عليك يا أبا طاهور يا رسول الله أتأذن لي أن كنا معكم تحت الكساء وقال عليك السلام يا بنتي ويا بزعتي قد أذنت لك فدخلت تحت الكساء اللهم صل على محمد فلما اكتملنا جميعا تحت الكساء أخذ أبي رسول الله بطرفي الكساء وأومى بيده اليمنى إلى السماء وقال اللهم إني هؤلاء أهل بيتي وكساتي وهماتي لحمهم لامي ودمهم دامي يلموني ما لموهم ويزنوني ما يزناهم أنا حرب لمن حرابهم وسلم لمن سلامهم وعدوا لمن عاداهم ومحب لمن أحبهم إنهم مني وأنا منهم فاجعل صلواتك وبركاتك ورحمتك وغفرانك ورزقك علي وعليهم وإذ أذهب عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا فقال هو عز وجل يا ملائكتي ويا سكان السماوات إنما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا مدهية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيئة ولا فلكا يدور ولا بيرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا في محبة هؤلاء الخمسة الذين هم تحت الكساء فقال الأمين جبرائيل يا رب ومن تحت الكساء فقال عز وجل هم أهل بيت النبوة معدن رسالتهم فاطمة وأبوها وبالوها وبنوها اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد فقال جبرائيل يا ربي أتزانوا لي أنا أبيت إلى الأرض لأكون معهم سادسا فقال الله نعم قد أذنت لك فهبت الأمين جبرائيل وقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله علي ألا يقرئك السلام ويكسوك بالتحيات والإكرام ويقول لك وإزتي وجلالي إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا مادهية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيئة ولا فلكا يدور ولا بكرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلى أجلكم ومحبتكم وقد أذن لي أدخل معكم تزان لي يا رسول الله فقال رسول الله وعليك السلام يا أمينة ويالله إنه نعم قد أذنت لك فدك الله جبرائيل ما أنا تحت الكساء اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد فقال لي إن الله قد أوى إليكم يقول إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس على أهل البيت يطهركم تطهيرا اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد فقال علي لأبي يا رسول الله أخبريني ما لجلوسنا هذا تحت الكساء من الفضل عند الله فقال النبي والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واستفاني بالرسالات نجيا ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في من فيلم من محفل أهل الأرض وفيه بجمع من شيعتنا ومحبة إلا ونزلت عليهم الرحمة وأفت بهم الملائكة واستغفر لهم إلى أن يتفرقوا يفعل علي عليه السلام إذن والله فزنا وفزا شيعتنا ورب الكعبة فاكلا نبي ثاني يا علي والعزي بعثني بالحق نبيا واستفاني بالرسالة نجي ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في ما ما أفيل من ما هافيل على الأرض وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا وفيهم محموم محموم إلى وفرج له همه ولا مغموم إلى وكشف له غماه ولا تليب حاجة إلى وكذا له حاجته فقال علي عليه السلام إذا والله فزنا وصائدين وكذلك شيعتنا وفازوا وسعدوا في الدنيا والآخرة ورب الكعبة اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد وجل فرج.
صلى الله محمد محمد الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين صراط المستقيم الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا احد الله احد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا احد اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد 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 وعجل فرجهم اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد وجر فرجه رهایی ملی جلو گر چله Sakina never returned home. She'll live in our hearts. She will give us hope. Sakina Uto. Mary John Otto. Rehai Meli. Chalo Garjale. Oh, young Sakina missed her father Hussein. How she was so strong, no one could explain. Her uncle Abbas tried to quench her thirst. She wanted her brother Asghar to drink first. Sakina Otto. Mary John Otto. Rahai Meli. Chalo gar chale. Her sister Sugra stayed in Medina. She missed Sakina, who never came home. She looked like her grandmother Fatima. No one could bear to see her face behijab. Sakina uto, Mary Janoto, Rahai Meli, Jalo Garjale. You would always sleep on your father's chest. After he was martyred, you would never rest. Even when your father Hussein had no head, he called you and you slept on his blessed chest. Sakina Uto, Mary Janoto, Rahai Meli, Chalo Garjale. Tents were burning, your face covered in tears. Shimmer smacked your face and pulled earrings from your ears. Those earrings were a gift from your father Hussein. Earlobes are bleeding and you are in pain. Sakina Uto, Mary Janoto, Rahai Meli, Chalo Garjale. You were paraded through town without your hijab. Your brother Sajjad was too sick to walk. The Imam of the time, Zain al-Abidin, they tortured your family more than any had seen. Sakina Uto, Mary Janoto, Rahai Meli, Jalo Garjale. The birds would fly in the roofless dungeon. They whipped her so much, the dress became her skin. Oh, Pupiyama, will we ever leave? Sakina had died, Zainab was bereaved. Sakina Uto, Mary Janoto, Rahai Meli, Chalo Garjale. Sakina never returned home. She'll live in our hearts. She will give us hope. Sakina Uto, Mary Janoto, Rahai Meli, Jalo Garjale. Sakina Uto, Mary Janoto, Rahai Meli, Jalo Garjale. Salawat.
Jill for Jahum. MashaAllah, that was beautiful. Up next, we have Brother Kumal for his speech, but before that, let's get a loud salawat and a surah Fatiha. Good morning, Nadim, for the Dar Moment, Heather Ali Jarnia, the Qasim Ali family, and good morning, Nadim. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد وجل فرجه. قل هو الله أحد. Allah is one. Ya Allah, you are the only thing that is one. Allah's oneness is why we are able to worship him. Because if Allah was not one, if there was another Allah, if Allah had parts, if Allah was not everywhere, then he would not be one. You see, Allah is everywhere, yet we cannot see him because Allah is not created. Our sight and the wavelengths that are made when we look at something and the light reflects back and creates our sight, our sensory perception are wavelengths that are created by Allah to give us sight. See, the oneness of Allah requires that we cannot see Allah. For if we could see Allah, then we could point to Allah and say, that's what Allah is. And Allah is not over there because we cannot see him over there. And in order for Allah to be one and to be everywhere, it's also necessary that we see everything we see is a reflection of Allah. Everything we see is perfection. Ya Allah, you are the creator, so nothing about Allah is created. Nothing about Allah's knowledge is not created. Allah's sight is not created. Allah's rules are not created. Allah is the ultimate creator. Allah follows no rules. Yet Allah sets rules in place in this physical world so we understand the happenings around us. So we can look around the world and we could see perfection. So we could see symmetry. So we could see order. And so we could know that there is a greater power out there that must have put this in place, right? And it's important that we understand the oneness of Allah. And as we understand the oneness of Allah, let's ponder it. You see, it's really important that we think about this, right? Sorry about that. You know, on this day, Muharram 1st, we're dedicating ourselves to do something great, right? Now, Hazrat Ali alayhi salam was the one that set the Islamic calendar. He was the one that organized the Quran and its verses, and it was he who decided that Muharram would be the first day of the New Year. And his deciding that Muharram was the first day of the New Year, Hazrat Ali alayhi salam had in mind that this is a time when people will gather and people will remember Imam Hussein, and people will remember the struggles, and will try to learn about the importance of what we're doing in this world, right? And that's why I started with the oneness of Allah. You see, the roots of Islam are Tawheed, Adl, Nabuwwat, Imamat, Khilafat, right? Two of the roots of our worship are the attributes of Allah, are the names of Allah, right? Allah is one and Allah is just. Now I could sit here and I could talk about this over and over again, but I'm going to lose half of the audience because the concept of oneness is so complex. You think zero is a complex number. It took years of existence. As they said that Aztecs discovered the number zero in Western history, right? We know that the mathematics, the school of thought of mathematics comes from Imam Jafar Sadiq. But the concept of zero was something that in modern human history wasn't discovered till later on in history. But we also understood the concept of one. But do we really understand the concept of oneness? See, the Tawheed and the oneness of Allah is absolute, which means Allah has no parts, which means that there is, when you worship Allah, you're worshiping a whole entity. You're not worshiping part of Allah, Allah's rahmah and Allah's generosity and Allah's Allah's greatness. You worship all of Allah, and all of Allah is equal, and all of Allah is a singular unit. And that's why, as we develop this topic, you'll understand why, if you're going to worship, the only thing to worship is something that is one and something that is just, right? Tawheed, Adalat, right? Nubuwwat, Imamat, Qiyamah, right? We're here on this day to talk about Imamat, right? We talked about Imam, Bibi Zainab saved Imamat, right? Imam Hussein was the Imam and Yazid was a fraud, right? We hear that all the time. Now, what does that even mean? What is the importance of Imamat? You know, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Allah, which is the greatest man, the greatest prophet, the greatest creation that Allah created, and he had a mission. And on the day of Nadir, when he announced the Imamat of Hazrat Ali alayhi salam, he also said, my mission is now complete. My message is now complete. His message was not complete until the introduction of the Imam, right? Until the introduction of the Imam. Imam Ali alayhi salam is the gate to the city of knowledge, it said, right? Now, Hazrat Ali alayhi salam used to talk to people and give knowledge to so many people, right? But he had a special friend. The special friend's name was Kamel. To this special friend, he would tell things that he wouldn't tell anyone else to. And it's not because they were secrets, it's because Hazrat Ali would talk to people according to their intellect. See, Hazrat Ali said there are three types of people. There are the types of people who are scholars, right? They're, who spend their life learning and pondering Allah and understanding the deen. There are people who learn, who follow the scholars and learn and take the learning into their heart. And the third types of people are like flies buzzing around, right? Three types of people. You can break it down to numerous types of people, right? It is, and the reason why I'm pointing this out is we're here to learn, right? Every day we need to learn. Prophet Muhammad said that if he had one thing, if he had 1 hour left to do in this world, what would he do? And he said he would acquire knowledge. The acquisition of knowledge is so fundamentally important to our soul and to our existence and to our hereafter. So I wonder, right? I wonder how many people remember what last year's topic was. How many people remember what we talked about last year? Do you remember that we went step by step from the time of Hazrat Adam to the time of Hazrat Nuh to the time of Hazrat Ibrahim, all the way to the time of Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein? It talked about why Karbala happened, why there was why there was the tragedy of Karbala, why it was so important. Does anyone remember that? And I'm asking this question because I want to point out, let's not be those people buzzing around looking for to sit on food and eat it, right? And let's not be those people that have the world at our fingertips. We have the knowledge of the Ahlul Bayt, right? We just recited Hadith Qissa beautifully by Brother Ali Qasim Ali, right? Do we understand the importance of Hadith Qissa? Every single word in there is calculated and thought out because it's the word of Bibi Fatima Tazara. Bibi Fatima Tazara is a personality who didn't speak unless if she had something profound to say. So if she's going to sit there and tell us Hadith Qissa, why do we not study that as scripture to see what we can learn and what kind of knowledge is in there, right? What kind of knowledge is in there, right? Wasn't it Bibi Fatima who said in the quotation of Hadith Qissa that Allah said, I didn't create the revolving planets for these personalities? She said this at a time before Copernicus, before Galileo, hundreds of years before then. Let us know the secrets of the cosmos, that the planets revolved around the sun. We're sitting here looking for knowledge and looking for the truth, right? I ask again, does anyone remember what we talked about last time we had this majlis? Yes, tune in and listen, and that's important. But if you don't learn anything, I'm just going to be honest with you guys, we're wasting our time here. We're wasting our time here. Everybody wants to be there when the Imam comes. Right? Everybody wants to be, if I was at Karbala and if I could do this, right? We have our Imam. We have our Imam. And it's our Imam's responsibility to be there when we call him, right? Do we call him or do we call other people when we need help, right? Today I'm going to keep the topic very literal. And I want everyone to think about this because honestly, I love each and every one of you, right? That's why we put these programs on, and that's why we open up our schedules and our hearts and put this on the internet and write poetry, and we do all this because we love the Ahlul Bayt, but because we love our community. You see, when Allah created namaz, He didn't say you go pray on your own, right? He told Prophet to go teach people how to pray, right? Allah is to be worshipped. Allah's greatness is to be worshipped. You should worship Allah not because Prophet Muhammad said, because everything you have, what do you have that was not given to you by Allah? What benefit do you have? People live their life thinking, if I sin, Allah's not going to give you this. Allah doesn't care if you sin. Allah doesn't care if you worship Him, right? But that is good for your soul. Allah takes care of everyone, even the sinners, right? In fact, Allah would often ask, Hazrat Musa, why he didn't forgive Pharaoh, right? He would ask Hazrat Musa why he would say, well, he's your enemy, right? Because Pharaoh's your enemy. And Allah would tell Hazrat Musa, no, Musa, he was your enemy, not my enemy. I don't have any enemies. I created everything. You see, we think that everything's predestined. So what difference does it make, right? You don't understand the knowledge of Allah. The knowledge of Allah is uncreated. Things Allah can have the knowledge of what's happening, and everything could still not be predetermined because we don't understand how things work. We don't understand how anything works. The only way we can understand how things work is by turning to Allah, by understanding. And Allah gave us, see, Imam Jafar Sadiq said, if there were two people on earth, right? Two people on earth, one would be the Imam, right? Allah will always give us guidance. Allah will always have a representative of this perfection on earth. You know, people say that the Imams weren't perfect. Prophet Muhammad wasn't perfect, right? There's no perfection, right? Because these are men, right? But they are proofs of Allah on earth. So how could they not be perfect? How could you believe anything that Prophet Muhammad said if he told one lie in his life? If he was wrong one time in his life, how could you, understand? So it's important that we understand what's going on, right? It's important that on the 8th of Muharram, if I sit here and ask people what we talked about on 1st of Muharram, I want you guys to remember it. I want you, or else you're wasting your time. Don't tune in. Don't listen. Don't do any of this if you're not going to learn, right? That's our responsibility. And if you do that, your life will change. Your life will 100% change. Did you know that the Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam, right? He had a dream that Allah was telling him to sacrifice his son, right? Allah was telling him to sacrifice his son, right? Hazrat Ismail had the dream. Bibi Sarah had the dream, and then what did Hazrat Ibrahim do, right? He was a friend of Allah. He was Khalilullah, right? And so he took his son to the designated area, and he tied his hands, right? And his son knew what was going on. He tied his hands. He blindfolded himself. He blindfolded Hazrat Ismail, right? And he took a knife and he cut his neck, then cut his son's neck, right? And he opened his eyes, and Allah had replaced his son with a calf, right? Did you know that calf was the calf from the initial sadaqah that Habil gave when Allah commanded them to give sadaqah? You see, when you do things like take something worldly, take money, take food, take something of matter of this world, and you turn it into sadaqah, it stays with you forever, right? If you don't know that, you should know that because we've been saying that all the time. See, I long for the day when people look at me and say, why do you keep saying the same thing over and over again? Why do you keep telling the same stories over and over again? Why do you keep doing the same examples? Why do I keep doing that? Because I want you guys to listen, dude. I want you guys to understand that this is not a favor that you're doing to anyone except yourself to stand here and acquire knowledge, right? What do? You're wasting your life running around trying to learn, psychology and chemistry. I'm not saying don't learn these sciences, but understand where they came from. Understand the importance of them. If you're going to go work with the intention that I want to be a billionaire so I could throw money around and tell people what to do, your success is going to be capped, right? But if you want to go be a billionaire because you want to build a hospital, you want to build a rehab facility for people who get physical therapy, and instead of going to the St. Jude's, they could go to Al Hussein Hospital and have a lot of food while they're rehabbing. Then you watch how successful you get, right? I say these things, and I'm not saying these out of ignorance. I'm not saying these out of conjecture. I'm saying this because I spent my entire life stressed out about the world, stressed out about fitting in America, stressed out about living up to my parents' expectations, stressed out about what the community is going to do, stressed out about all of this. And once I realized the only thing I need to stress out about is pleasing Allah, my life changed, right? My life, and I'm not saying you're saying I'm a testament to success. Everybody be like me, but I'm telling you, the strength that you get from submitting to Allah, We're going to sit here, inshallah, shed a tear about what happened in Karbala, right? Because Bibi Zainab saved Imamah. What does that mean to you? What does Imamah mean to you? And why is it so important that we save it? Why is it so important that we saved Imamah? Without Imamah, we would not know the path to Jannah. If Allah created Jannah, and Allah created hell, and Allah created earth, and He said you can earn your way to Jannah, and He didn't tell us how to get there, that would be unfair. That would not be right. You see what I'm saying? Our instinct is to crave Allah's attention. And Allah gives us more attention than anything or anyone on earth does. Every single moment of every single day. Allah's watching you now, and Allah will watch you when you go in the other room. And Allah will watch you while you're driving home. Not only watch you, we'll watch over you. We'll have everything you need to get home safely. We'll send your parents there to greet you when you show up, right? So on this day of Muharram, I want everybody listening, anybody who accidentally stumbled upon this, anybody who's sitting here listening to the majalis, anyone who's going to listen to it later while you're trying to go to sleep, I want you to ask yourself, seriously, why are you doing this? Why are you listening to anything? Why are you going to recite a Noha? Why are you doing Hadith Gisa? Why are these 10 days more important than any other day? Than any other day? Why today? Right? Why today are we not out playing basketball, with our friends? Why are we here trying to do something good with our life, right? What better to do with your life than to obtain knowledge? So I want people to learn. If you're not going to, you don't necessarily, I'm not saying learn from me. Go, spend your days learning. Spend your nights learning. If you're going to listen to a speech and you're going to learn nothing from my speech, either I wasted my time, right? Or I wasted your time, or you wasted your time. You see, my dad, he probably would pull me off of the speech and say, Kamal, you're not teaching anyone. You're just talking garbage. But I apologize to my father, Maroon Tahir Movement, and I apologize to anyone who thinks I'm wasting your time. But I want you to open your eyes and understand that Imamah completed religion. Prophet Muhammad, who brought the religion, brought the message, once he gave announced the Imamah there, he said, now I've done my job. Now the religion is complete. The message is complete. And Imamah, 12 generations of Imamah, right? There's nothing they forgot to teach us. You see, we think that we're so smart now. We have the internet, we have cloning, and we have this, we have that. So the teachings of Hazrat Ali alayhi salam are outdated. Really, you really think that? If you really think that, then you have no idea who Hazrat Ali is. If you really think that, then you have no idea who Imam Hussein is, Imam Jafar as-Sadiq is. You have no idea who Imam Mehdi Sahib was, Imam alayhi salam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. You have no idea who he is. And that's sad. And that's sad because if you don't know who your Imam is, then who are you going to turn to help? Who are you going to turn to for help, right? Who are you going to ask for help, right? That's the Imam's job. And we're so ignorant about the Imam's role in our life, we ask other people for help instead of asking for Imam for help. We ask other people to solve our problems and to fix our rosy, to fix our sicknesses and to fix our stress and to give us friends and to fix our loneliness and to get us a job and to get us a car, whatever we want. We're going to go ask other people. When's the last time you asked your Imam for something, right? Look, we're not worthy of our Imam. We're not worthy of him to help us, but it's his job to help us. It's his job to help us. It's his job to guide us. It's his job to teach us how to live and teach us how to get to Jannah. We should understand the gift and the importance of Imamah. Without Imamah, there would be no religion, right? It's one of the roots of religion. Usuluddin, Tawheed, Adab, Nubuwwat, Imamat, Khiyamat, right? Tawheed and Adab show us, make us understand why we worship, right? Nubuwwat is the message from Allah to his people. Imamat is this. Hazrat Ali was the sword of Allah, right? He was the line of Allah, right? He's still the sword of Allah, right? He's the action of Allah. This is the action. The action. If you want to act in a holy manner, you act like Hazrat Ali alayhi salam. You see, he gave people knowledge and he understood. A lot of people aren't going to care about what I say, but he said it anyways. He said anyways, and he did it anyways, right? You know, when Imam Hussein was leaving Medina, when Imam Hussein, it wasn't just like somebody leaves. It wasn't just like Governor Newsom's no longer governor and leaves the governor's mansion and people cheer. No, people loved Imam Hussein. People loved Bibi Zainab. People loved Hazrat Abbas. People loved Ono Muhammad. People loved Bibi Sakina, right? You know, when there were weddings, everyone would gather. Hazrat Abbas would be there. Hazrat Abbas would be there leading the wedding procession. And Bibi Zainab would be there celebrating with people. The families would gather, during Eid namaz and when there were children being born, and on Thursday nights, and they would get together. They would have the great time, right? There was such a loving. People loved them, not just because they recited dua. Hazrat Abbas was awesome. Hazrat Ali was awesome. Imam Hussein was. People loved these people, right? They had friends. They had companions. They had people who looked forward to seeing them. People would get up in the morning and couldn't wait to go see Ono Muhammad. People would wake up in the morning and they couldn't wait to go see Hazrat Abbas. People, Bibi Zainab would leave the house and people would start giving her gifts and flowers and making sure she was comfortable when she walked and bring her shoes because they loved Bibi Zainab, right? Yes, they lived a modest life because they gave away everything to charity. But do you know who Bibi Zainab's husband was, right? He was Abdullah ibn Jafar al-Tayyar, right? Jafar al-Tayyar was a man who the state would ask him for a loan when they needed money, right? When Medina was broke, they would go ask Jafar al-Tayyar for money. When Makkah was broke, they would ask Jafar al-Tayyar. So she didn't live a life of poverty. She lived the life of a queen. She lived the life of a princess, right? And at the time of, after the death of Muawiyah, right? There was a treaty, we talked about this last year. Does anyone remember the treaty? Does anyone remember what was said in the treaty and why it was so significant? We talked about this last year. You see, I could go through the same majlis. It's funny. I could talk about the same majlises every day last year I can put on same, and no one will be, no one will know. No one will know that I used the majlis from last year. Isn't that embarrassing? Isn't that sad for every single one of us, including me, right? I obviously am doing a bad job telling the tale of Ashura if nobody remembers what I talked about last year, right? So I want you to listen to what's going on this year, right? When Muawiyah had died and appointed Yazid, Yazid lived in Syria. At the time, Syria was a Christian place, right? And Muawiyah wanted to consolidate wealth and consolidate enterprise and wanted to trade in Syria and get the wealth from Syria and get the wealth from the Arab nations. So we thought the best thing to do is to appoint his son Yazid, who his mother was Christian, and he grew up a Christian in Syria, appointing him Khalifa. And appointing Khalifa, even though he signed a treaty with Hazrat Ali alayhi salam, saying that Imam Hassan alayhi salam, after he was Khalifa, the Khalifa would follow with the lineage of the Prophet Muhammad, right? This was a treaty that he had signed. This is a treaty violated by announcing that Yazid was Khalifa. So now Yazid is Khalifa. Yazid comes to, he's now the king of, in his mind, right? The king of Syria, the king of Arabia, the king of all these places. But there's a civil war going on. And there's a number of people who are running after wealth and running after what Muawiyah is doing. And some people are looking at Imam Hussein for guidance. They loved Imam Hussein. They loved him so much. He was so good to the people, right? And his brother Imam Hussein was now their spiritual leader, and they loved him. They loved Hazrat Abbas. They loved Bibi Zainab. They felt so much happiness being in their presence. That why would they not follow him? So what did Yazid do? Yazid demanded that people give their allegiance to Yazid. And it got to a point where people were not giving allegiance to Yazid, and they were following Imam Hussein around. They would be killed. Their families would be killed. They would be tortured. Their tongues would be cut out. Things were getting very, very bad, where people are hiding in their homes and worshiping, right? Hiding in their homes and worshiping, right? But they would still do it. Why would they do it? Why? Not because Prophet Muhammad said so, not because they saw the greatness. If our Imam was here right now, we would all follow him and try to be like him, because that's how amazing he is. Great at everything. You think you're something, right? You think your boss is something. You think you're the captain of your basketball team is something. Imam is Amana is something, dude. Imam is Amana is something great, and that's how Allah created him. He's the greatest of everything. You see him and he smiles. He sees you and he smiles, even though you're a sinner, he sees you and he treats you with respect and with humility and takes care of you, because that's his job, right? That is Imam, right? So when people were leaving Medina, people came to Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam, and they said, we're going to miss you. We're going to miss you, oh Abbas. We're going to miss seeing you at the family gatherings. We're going to miss seeing you at the weddings. We're going to miss seeing you at namaz. We're going to miss you helping us when we had problems. Who are we going to go to, oh Abbas, for our problems if we can't go to you? The friends of Ona Muhammad, from school, they would come to him and say, it's going to be so hard not seeing you in school. We used to play with you every day, but we're not going to see you anymore. The people would go to Bibi Zainab and say, oh, Bibi, who's going to teach us now? She spent her life teaching. Who's going to teach us now when you leave? Who's going to do that? The friends of Hazrat al-Akbar alayhi salam. People loved Hazrat al-Akbar alayhi salam so much. He looked like Prophet Muhammad. His mannerisms were like Prophet Muhammad. When he spoke, he sounded like Prophet Muhammad. Right? People loved him so much because it reminded him of the greatest man ever. And that's how charming he was. And they would look at him and say, oh, Ali Akbar, we're never going to see you again. We're never going to see the face of the Prophet again. We're never going to hear the voice of the Prophet again. And this was very upsetting to the people of Medina. Very upsetting to the people of Medina. You see, we think that they just decided to leave and they marched. Everyone was like, no, people wanted them to stay. They wanted to, why were they going to Kufa? Because letters were in from Kufa. Now keep in mind, Imam Hussein grew up in Kufa. Hazrat Ali moved to Kufa later on after Bibi Fatima Zahra was martyred, right? They moved to Kufa. And Bibi Zainab taught thousands of women. Kulthum taught thousands of women. Imam Hassan alayhi salam was there at the Masjid of Kufa when they martyred his father. Imam Hassan was there when they martyred his father, and they moved back to Medina. And now the same people of Kufa, the same people who assassinated, who martyred Hazrat Ali, they're writing letters. They're saying that our people of Kufa are lost. We need our Imam. Imam Hussein knew that what the people of Kufa were like, and they called him and he came. So why do we not call our Imam? Imam is Imam, come solve our problems. Solve our problems and take away our ignorance. Every one of us here is searching for something, right? And you're the answer to what we're searching for. So come take away our ignorance. Bibi Sugra resembled Bibi Fatima so much. And it is said that perhaps that's why, Imam Zainul Abidin was sick. He was sick so the enemies would not slaughter him, and Imam would continue, right? Bibi Sugra was sick and she was left behind in Medina, right? Perhaps it was because nobody could bear to see the face of Bibi Fatima with the Zahra having the hijab snatched from her head. You see, Bibi Sugra was sitting there on the day before the Qafla was leaving, right? She was so sick, and she heard the footsteps of her father coming in the room. Heard the footsteps of her father coming in the room. This little girl, she got all her strength together and she sat up to convince her father she wasn't sick. She's talking to him normally. She's like, "Oh, Assalamu alaikum," and talking to him, trying to make it seem like he's not sick. Trying to make it seem like he's not sick. And he looked at her and she said, "I'm feeling better. I'm feeling better." And he said, "My daughter, we need to leave you in Medina. Who's going to take care of Banin, right? Who's going to take care of Soma? We need to leave you here so you could take care of the women folk, right?" But Bibi Sugra, she was just a young girl. She was just a young girl, and she thought that was not fair. It's not fair. My whole family's leaving me. My baby brother, al-Asr, he hasn't even walked yet. He's going to be sitting up soon. I can't even see that, and he's leaving. And what are we, that's not fair. She saw Bibi Sakina, her younger sister, getting ready to go, right? And she's told her brother, Hazrat Ali, so you're going to leave? You're going to leave me, and you're going to get married. As we know, he never got married. You're going to leave me, and you're going to get married, and your wife is going to see Bibi Sakina and not know who I am. Bibi Sakina's my sister Sakina's going to get all of the gifts at the weddings, and I'm not going to get any. This is a little girl, so God telling her brother, Hazrat Ali for this. She called her uncle Hazrat Abbas. Hazrat Abbas used to help everybody, especially the women folk of the house, especially his sister. If you have sisters, you should do khidmat to them like Hazrat Abbas did. He used to put Bibi Zainab's shoes on. There was not one single request that Bibi Sakina would have that Hazrat Abbas wouldn't fulfill. There was not one request that Bibi Sugra had that Hazrat Abbas wouldn't fulfill. So on this day, Bibi Sugra called Hazrat Abbas and said, my uncle, please help me. Please help me. My family's leaving me behind. You guys are going to go and forget about me. She said, I'm sick. I'm going to die. And you guys are no one's going to be here to bury me. Saying all these things, trying to guilt her into going. She's a little girl. And she wanted to go with her family. She didn't want to be left behind. She saw everybody bidding them adieu. And she didn't understand why she couldn't go. So the next day, Imam was saying, he wanted to talk to her. And he explained to her, she in a dream she saw Bibi Fatima come and explain to her. So Bibi Sugra reluctantly agreed. But as the Qafila was leaving, she went on the roof to watch them. You see, this was back in the day before air pollution, right? Before carbon emissions. You could see for miles in the clear desert, right? You could see for miles and miles in the clear desert, right? And so she went on the roof of a house so she could see her family leave. And she made Imam Hussein promise that he's going to look back and wave at her for as long as she could see. So Imam Hussein, he loaded up the Qafila. As the Qafila loaded up, as Bibi Zainab loaded up, one person went and opened lifted her leg up. One person make sure her shoe was on her. They made sure she was comfortable. They treated her like the queen that she was. And they all left. And as they left Medina walking, Hazrat Abbas, Hazrat Ali Akbar, they would not dare look behind because the tears were streaming from their eyes, not because they're leaving their friends and the people loved them, but because they could not bear to see Bibi Sugra as miserable and as sad as she was, begging them to help her. They never said, no, we can't help you. But when they asked her, she has to come to on the journey with them, neither of them could help her, and it pained them to see their sister so sad. And that's why neither of them, they kept walking, looking forward, making sure Bibi Sugra would not see them cry. And Imam Hussein kept looking back and waving. Every few steps, he'd look back and he'd wave to Bibi Sugra. Few steps, he'd look back and he'd wave. And they walked, and he kept doing that until she became a little speck on in the distance. And he still kept walking and still kept waving just in case she could still see him. And they walked, and until the whole background, until the whole city of Medina was a blur to him, he kept walking and waving to her. And they walked until they got far enough where he could no longer see any signs of the city of Medina. And Imam said, stop the Qafila. He stopped everybody. He told the boss to stop. He told the camels to stop. He told the companions, Habib bin Mazar, Musa bin Ayman, everybody stopped the journey. And he stood there and he cried. And he cried because he was leaving his daughter behind. He cried because he knew he would never see her again. He cried because she was saying things like, I'm going to die and you're never going to be there to bury me. And he knew that he was going to die before he got to see her and nobody would bury him. This was the tragedy of Karbala. This is how it began. Understand why it's happening. Understand why now you want to cry for Imam Hussein. You want to cry for Imam. You understand what Imamate is. Understand why this is such a sad event. It's not because people were dying. It's because this is the Imam. Allah's gift to the world was making a sacrifice to go to people who were calling him, people who he knew weren't going to be there for him, right? This is why we're here. And so in these 10 days, I want you guys to learn about Imamah. I want you guys to understand why you're here. If you're not going to come, if you're not going to be able to tell me on the 8th of Muharram that you talked about Bibi Sugra on the 1st of Muharram, don't waste your time, dude. My majlis, they're not for you. The Azadari is, don't be the third type of person that buzzes around like a fly. Be the type of person that creates knowledge. This is a gift to you. It's a gift to you. The gift of knowledge is a gift to you. Imamah was what Prophet Muhammad said, completed his message. His message, divine message, was completed with Imamah. So understand what Imamah is. And if you understand what Imamah is, all the other stuff going on in your life ain't going to make a difference. Nothing will make a difference if you understand what Imamah is. The only thing that will make a difference, you're going to yearn, you're going to stress all day. I stress all day sometimes. Am I going to cry in majlis tonight? Sometimes I listen to the Masai, beautifully recited, Maulana Sadiq, Sadiq Maulana Qalb Sadiq, Marhum, Maulana Zishan Hadar Marhum, Aftab Sahib. The first majlis that made me cry was Aftab Abdul's majlis, right? Sometimes I listen, beautiful majlis, Maulana Abdul, and I won't shed a tear. I'm ashamed of myself. Is that really how selfish I am? That I can't take time out of my life and dedicate my emotions, dedicate my psychology, dedicate everything I have to understanding and to learning. If you heard the story, listen to it again. Listen to it again and understand. You should understand. Every time you hear the same story over and over, you should understand the pain of these people. You should understand how hard it was for Imam Hussein to make the decision that we're going to leave Bibi Sugra behind. Right? Imam Jalal Abidin was on the journey, but he was sick. Why did Bibi Sugra get left behind? Think about this. Think about what I said, that she resembled Bibi Fatima so much that nobody could bear to see the face of Bibi Fatima Behijab, right? This is one of the biggest tragedies of Karbala. The people, not just the people who died, the people who left behind. You don't be one of the people who left behind. Don't be one of those people who could have gone on the journey, but you got left behind. Don't be one of those people who got left behind and they're nothing, right? This is it. This is Muharram first. Whatever else you were doing, unimportant. Muharram first. Let's start it today. Bar Muhammad wa ala Muhammad sallallahu. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wa ya Hussein. Ya Hussein. Ya Hussein. Hussein. Ya 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 Hussein. Imam Ya Hassan Ya Hussein, Imam Ya Hassan Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Imam Ya Hassan Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein. Abide बीमार था, वो आबिदे बीमार था, चलने से जो लाचार था, चलने से जो लाचार था, और शाम का बाजार था, और शाम का बाजार था, और मुस्तफा की बेटिया मौला इमाम या हसन या हुसैन, मौला इमाम या हसन या हुसैन, या हुसैन या हुसैन। शबीर की वो लाडली, शबीर की वो लाडली, सीने पे जो शाखे पली, सीने पे जो शाखे पली, जिसकी हवा बन में चली, जिसकी हवा बन में चली, मुँह पर तमाचों का निशान, मौला हक इमाम या हसन या हुसैन, मौला हक इमाम या हसन या हुसैन, या हुसैन या हुसैन। रो कर कहे कासिम की माँ, रो कर कहे कासिम की माँ, मारा गया कासिम जवान, मारा गया कासिम जवान। ए लाल मैं ढूंढूं कहाँ, ए लाल मैं ढूंढूं कहाँ, मैं भी तेरी तेरा जहाँ। मौला हक इमाम या हसन या हुसैन, मौला हक इमाम या हसन या हुसैन, या हुसैन या हुसैन। वो
बेशीर था
वो अस्करे बेशीर था
और हुरमला का तीर था
और हुरमला का तीर था
प्यासा गला क्यों कर कटा
प्यासा गला क्यों कर कटा
लर्जी जमीन और आसमान
मौला के इमाम या हसन या हुसैन मौला के इमाम या हसन या हुसैन 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 हुसैन या अब्बास या अब्बास या अब्बास या अब्बास ya Abbas ya Abbas let me tell you about a hero ya Abbas ya Abbas ya Abbas tell you about a hero named Abbas. His arms they fought for freedom until they cut them off. Ya Abbas, 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 Ya Abbas. Let me tell you about a hero named Abbas. His arms they fought for freedom until they cut them off. Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas. Abbas, Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas. Son of the lion of God, the lion of the tribe is what he was called. Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas, no matter what the cost. With you on our side, we are never lost. Baba Hawaii, the gateway to prayer. You stood by Hussein when no one else was there. Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas. Let me tell you about a hero named Abbas. His arms they fought for freedom until they cut them off. Ya Abbas, 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 Ya Abbas. When he mounted above his mighty horse, he was so tall his feet touched the floor. Who would have known what they had in store when he rode for Sakina, rode for her thirst? He reached the water, but he didn't drink first. Allah-tush, the alam and the mush. To knock down the flag of Islam, they sent the dogs to cut off his arm. Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas. His arms were lost. The water for the children, clenched with his teeth. A shot for Humullah. The backwater was breached. Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas. Ya Abbas, Ya. Let me tell you about a hero named Abbas. His arms they fought for freedom until they cut them off. Ya Abbas, 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 Ya Abbas. She was the daughter of Ali and the Lady of Light. Zainab was a sister protected by might. The arms of Abbas, they protected her veil. With the boss on her side, she would always prevail. He was trained by the greatest, Hazrat Ali. There was no foe he could not defeat. When the lion married Banin, it was a day of Ashura he had on his mind. A companion for Hussein he would surely find. In Karbala, the land of despair, neither Ali nor Hassan, none would be there. Allah gave him a son, the gateway to prayers. Babul Hawaii would always be there. Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas. The flag of Islam would never be lost. He held it high until they took his hands. Zainab and Kulthum were paraded through the lands. Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas. The protector was dead, yet they saved Islam, and that's all that was said. Let me tell you about a hero named Abbas. His arms they fought for freedom until they cut them off. Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad.
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إلهي أزم البلاء والخلفاء وكشف الغطاء وانكسر الرجاء وضاقت الأرض وملئت السماء وأنت المستعان وإليك المستقى وإليك المولى في الشدة والرخاء اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد أولي الأمر الذين فرست علينا طاعتهم عرفتنا بذلك منزلتهم ففرج عنا بحقهم فرجا عاجلا قريبا كلام البصر هو أقرب يا محمد يا علي يا علي يا محمد اكفياني فإنكما كافيان وانصراني فإنكما ناصران يا مولانا يا صاحب الزمان الغوث 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 أدركني 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 أسا 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 الأجل 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 يا أرحم الراحمين بحق محمد وآله الطاهرين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم السلام عليك يا أبا الفضل عباس أمير المؤمنين السلام عليك يا ابن سيد الوصيان السلام عليك أيها العبد الصالح المطيع لله وعلى رسوله السلام عليك يا أفضل الشهداء السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته زيارة إمام حسين عليه السلام السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله السلام عليك يا ابن أمير المؤمنين السلام عليك يا ابن فاطمة الزهراء السلام عليك يا أبا الفضل عباس السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته زيارة إمام علي بن موسى الرضا السلام عليك يا قريب القربى السلام عليك يا علي بن موسى الرضا السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته زيارة إمام مهدي عليه السلام السلام عليك يا صاحب العصر والزمان السلام عليك يا إمام الإنس والجان السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن الأمان 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 السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وجل فرجهم.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Oh, Imam comes soon, the whole world needs you, Allah can salawat.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Doing the part of
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Allahumma qalla waliyaka Hazratana al-Hasan salawatuka alaihi wa ala abai fi hadha dasa wa fi kulli sawaliyan wa hasan wa qadlan wa nason wa daliyan wa ina hatta ashkanahu tuwiga rahmatika ya rahmil alamin.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وجل نعرہ